obviously done very well in the photography, but it's not just a monetary gain. You've actually won some big prizes. You won some big
Alhamdulillah.
awards.
Yeah,
So
I'll
tell
be
us a little
honest,
bit about
actually.
those. There's a very famous wedding
Yeah.
photo of a really gorgeous couple.
Yeah.
And then there's a young man and there's
Yeah.
his bride, and she's
Yeah.
kind of jumping, and it's such a beautiful
Jumping up.
picture. Tell us about
Yeah,
that.
that was amazing. So that there were Shiroz and Sanja was in terms of friends basically
Right.
who got married at Sion House. So it's like
Oh, it's
Sion
just
Park
up the
in
road. Okay.
yeah, for you guys it's in West London basically.
So that's
So we'd pretty much finished like the indoor shoot basically. But I just thought, you know what, keep walking, be silly, be yourselves, which I try and encourage all couples to be, because we can do the arty kind of serious pose, and that's not really them. Express yourselves, guys, basically. And then he just like jumped, and she obviously the weight of the outfit, you can't really kick it too far up. But the way at 2000th of a second machine gun effects, and I just thought, and we all laughed, thinking, "Oh my gosh, we've caught you guys midair."
yeah, beautiful.
Just looks amazing. So I just thought curiosity. The EPAS, which is Event Photography Awards in UK, the wedding category, I thought just enter it, and I'll just call it "Love Is in the Air" because it's literally jumping
That's
up.
so sweet.
Entitled. Thought nothing of it, and then before you know it, I just got an email to say you're invited as a finalist to literally the award ceremony. And I just thought, this is insane kind of thing, because obviously self-taught photographer, only been a few years in it basically. Went along basically, and then I was shortlisted, and then they went through the top 10 basically, and then they go announce a winner. I just had to pinch myself, because you're thinking that's like mainstream. With the utmost respect, I'm not criticizing Asians backpatting one another basically, but this was like the mainstream kind of thing, recognizing. And I thought, alhamdulillah, it was just, that was like quite pivotal, and that gave me almost like the encouragement to say any other awards or competitions, go and enter.
Go into
and there was, like Nikon, they did a year-end montage for 2015 and 2016, and back to back 2 years in a row I was in there basically. So that was end of year, and one of them, it was actually a photo from Muslim Hand's trip to Mogadishu in.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Elevate podcast. My guest today is a really amazing guy. He has found success in so many different spheres of life. He started off as an accountant and worked for Grant Thornton for a number of years. He then established one of the largest Muslim networks, Emerald. You would have heard of it, and has over 15,000 members of that network. And he's also an award-winning photographer. So that's somebody who took a career which is very kind of mathematical and very focused on a certain thing, and then developed himself into different directions, and it ended up being something very, very creative and being very good at it. He's recently taken on a role at Rizq Finance, and he'll be doing some sort of really interesting stuff there as well. So check out the conversation. We kind of go through his journey throughout all these interesting areas, and we also talk about some of his thinking on his processes and his principles about how he's navigated these very different areas. So check this out. Hope you enjoy it, and as ever, subscribe and like, comment. Thank you. Hey Rooful, assalamu alaikum. How's it going?
Hey, welcome. How are you?
I'm there, very, very well.
Good.
So we're doing this this conversation today, and we're doing it in the evening, which is unusual. Normally, I'm a daytime talker, but hopefully that will lead to a more relaxed conversation. Maybe in the evening, maybe I'm more relaxed. Hopefully you are too. How's your day gone?
Alhamdulillah, fine. Yes, today I was slightly on the golden red side of things. I had an outdoor photo shoot in the community, so that was like literally a full day from 10 a.m. till just now kind of thing. Wow. So it was good. Jubilee weekends, as in, all the buntings out, and I was joking. I was like, the only brown in the village. This is like where I went to do the photo shoot. But it's really good to see the community come together.
Brilliant. Yeah. So just in that first kind of sentence that you said, you've kind of gone into some really interesting stuff that we'll kind of go into in detail, your photography. And actually you said something there which made me laugh, and it made me think of something that I really wanted to talk to you about, and I'd completely forgotten. Your foray into comedy.
Oh no, I won't say that.
So I definitely want to know about this, because I'm fascinated.
No.
I'm fascinated with especially stand-up comedy.
Yeah,
I think of all the kind of art forms
Mm.
is fascinating. I just find it so interesting, and
Yeah.
it can be mesmerizing. So Seinfeld has this comedians in cars with coffee show on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you haven't, you should watch it. And there's one of the episodes he says it's really interesting. There's only 3 types of people which can completely mesmerize and capture people by just their voice, by just talking. And he said it's dictators, priests, and stand-up comedians.
Okay, maybe I might be one and number 3. Miss out number 2.
You're a dictator.
No, only joking.
Yeah, so we'll pick up on that. We'll pick up on that.
No problem.
So where did you grow up, Rooful? Because you're not a Londoner, right?
No, I'm not a Londoner. No, that's the thing. It's quite funny because obviously, alhamdulillah, you know, for the last 20 odd years, I've been working in London, and obviously all the various things we'll talk about later on, it's all been London based. But I'm a fake Londoner in the sense that I was born in Sheffield, but only a baby when we moved to Northamptonshire, middle of England. And the best way to describe Northamptonshire, it's pretty well connected geographically. Right. Admittedly, not much going on there. So it's like
where are you close to the M6? The M6
no, it's almost half an hour from where the M6 and M1 join. It's a little bit. Right. Best way to describe it is almost equidistant, London and Birmingham. So if we were to be a bit of a geek and draw a line across and a line down, it's like where the 2 lines kind of meet. We're in the middle of England.
Right, right. And was there a specific reason why your parents ended up there?
Yeah, it's just my dad's work. You know, brought up in a humble kind of setting. My dad's factory background, and Northamptonshire was quite famous for the leather factories. So a lot of people might be familiar with Dr. Martens. Made in Northamptonshire, as in historically, and all the related leather industries, so the tanneries, those that prepare the leather and everything like that. That's Northamptonshire. So my dad used to. Yeah.
Did he work with Dr.
Not Dr. Martens, but no, it was a leather factory. But obviously, there were the suppliers to the shoe industry itself. Yeah.
Right. That's so interesting because I've always been interested in the fascinating, because leather is a really interesting medium of, it's used in lots of different things, clothes, obviously, shoes, sports goods, all of these sorts of interesting things, and the process of turning it in from a sheep or a cow into this creation is really fascinating. So whenever I go, which is not that often, but if I go to places like Turkey or Morocco or Pakistan, actually, the things that I always like to go is into the markets to see who's doing what with leather. And it's a shame when you see this stuff being made. Oh yeah, it's just Chinese coming out of China. It's kind of soulless. Whereas these places, and probably even places like your dad worked, they had a real soul because it was real people doing real work with their hands and creating something, or turning, like I say, the sheep or this cow into this creation. It's fascinating work. It really is.
Yeah, it's fascinating in the sense that obviously when I used to be like an auditor, we can come and touch that later on. But you used to have shoe clients, so the shoe industry. So to see the handcrafting, like brands that we might be familiar with, like Church's shoes, for example, very, very stunning. And you can see the handcraftsman, the craftsmanship. It's almost like a lost trade. So it is.
Church's shoes are I mean, they're ridiculously expensive.
Yep. Shoes for life, though.
They are beautiful. They are really well put together. And you're right. You can buy them once and wear them.
Resold them.
Yeah. And then, are you from a big family? Most Asian kids?
No, there's 4 of us. I've got an older sister. She works in HR. She's based up in Yorkshire. Then there's me, as in went down the accountancy route initially, but we'll come and talk about that later. And then I've got 2 other brothers who are younger than me. So the middle brother is a principal out in Dubai in teaching, and the youngest brother also a teacher, and he's out in Saudi at the moment, teaching English.
Very interesting. That's very interesting. And did you enjoy school? Were you one of those kind of studious kids, or did you mess around, or were you made to be a studious kid, which is often what
I think I'm just a born geek. I'm gonna be honest. Actually, I used to love school. And it's almost like to the point of where I don't know, maybe weren't feeling well or anything. Parents, where some parents were just like, you must still go, you must go, and all this. It's the other way around. They were saying, relax, kind of. Whereas me, I absolutely wanted to go, kind of thing. So to me, obviously, I loved from primary school days. Again, very, very small school, basically, but it's only 5-minute walk from where we lived. Secondary school was only barely 10-minute walk. We're quite lucky. Looking back, obviously, alhamdulillah, it's very convenient. The school was quite multicultural in the sense that different nationalities. However, when it came to Muslims, you can count it in your hands, unfortunately. It's just very strange. We had a lot of Gujarati, got Hindus, that's quite popular in terms of our catchment area. But then in terms of Muslims, in our year group of probably 180 or so, I think there was only 4. I think it was growing up, the entire secondary school.
What effect does that have on you? Because I have a similar experience in secondary school. So in secondary school, I was in a school which had literally 3, maybe 4 Muslims in the whole school. And I have some thoughts on that. But what did you feel like? Realizing that I'm kind of come from a different background than everybody else, despite other brown people being around.
I'll be honest, actually, it's one of those things that only when you look back, then you realize that that wasn't, it didn't form a part of the identity. It's Muslim by name. That was it, kind of thing. Because it's not as though I was strong enough, or we had the numbers enough to say, right, we'd like to do something special for Ramadan or do something for Eid. It just wasn't. So where now, all diversity related things are very hot. Cast your mind back to the 80s and like the 90s, it really wasn't not where we were. Again, sadly, because of the lack of numbers. Obviously, alhamdulillah, our town had a little mosque, which is great. Few hundred people, and now population's probably over 1,000 Muslims in the catchment area, which is nice, obviously. So now, I'm sure if we went back to the school, it's a case of it will be on the agenda. But back then it was a case of just keep your head down, enjoy school, enjoy playing, love footballs and what have you. But it wasn't as though faith was that prominent in that sense.
It wasn't a big thing.
No, it wasn't a big thing. Yeah, that's right.
Wow. And then did you go to secondary school in the same area?
Yeah, same area. That's it. So literally, it was just like I said, 10-minute walk, which is really, really easy in that sense. And then when it came to university, well, far before then, obviously sixth form, it was still in the same school, but obviously the sixth form block, and the numbers dwindled. So it was only, as a school, it was only probably about 40 odd people in the sixth form. So it's pretty small in that sense. So it's good because it's close knit and great. Obviously, good camaraderie and stuff like that. And again, quite diverse, even within the numbers. So the real wake up call was go to university, where you think, wow, the sheer numbers of, that was like a thing.
Oh, there's lots of us. So you say you were geeky. Did that continue into secondary school? Were there particular favorite subjects?
I'll be honest, actually, I was a bit of an odd one. Happy to be like unique by name and nature, because I loved all things like, almost like technical and logical. So I loved maths, loved IT in that sense. But then equally, I loved like art and design kind of thing. I used to love as well. And then football, for all the will in the world, obviously, I was a bit of a late developer. I wasn't very good early on, but towards the end, it was quite funny that, from having pace, I obviously haven't got the pace anymore. Want to be Ryan Giggs kind of thing. I went into goal, would you believe? So I was pretty, bizarrely, obviously great for 5-a-side goal, as in incredibly kind of like, agile like a cat. So which is quite funny. That's good. I love playing in goal, actually. But yeah. No, it's been a good 3 years since I played.
Do you know what? It's such a shame, and I regret this in my own life. I used to play once, even twice a week for a long time.
Wow. Nice.
Up until for a good probably 16 years, 16 years. And those guys who play have played there weekly pretty much for 20 years.
Nice.
Which is epic, which is amazing. I used to do that, and I moved, and I just haven't been able to kind of get into that same groove anywhere else.
Oh, I was going to say, we'll have to try and start something up, actually.
Yeah.
Even jumpers for goalposts, we'll do it.
This is the thing, and it's so good for you. I think on multiple levels, and I've said this before, I think men need competitiveness.
Yeah.
And we definitely need the physical exercise in the Asian community, because we've all got I've got the bellies now.
Yeah, well, it's the COVID. I'll blame it on COVID. That's been working from home.
Blame it on COVID, blame it on COVID and our food and just the lack of activity. Like I said, I think I mentioned to you earlier, I went to this Willowbrook farm with the missus and the family, and I was absolutely shattered at the end of the day.
Really? Yeah.
And I realized it's just because I walked so much outside on uneven ground in the sun, and my body just went, I'm not used to this kind of physical labor. I was thinking, it's very interesting. All the farmer and all his family and everybody around are stick thin.
Yeah.
Because they just work outside all day, and it's so good. They look so healthy.
Yeah,
so healthy.
Definitely. I think we, especially if you're in a kind of an urban environment, whether it's for work or where you live, I think it's a case of when it comes to venturing out, we have all the excuses. I'll go, on, like you said, on a bank holiday weekend or once a month or what. I think if you try and make it habitual, make it quite regular, obviously it doesn't have to be proper hike, but just get out and about, I think.
And I think there's another thing. I think we in the city especially, and actually when I say in the city especially, it's probably any even slightly urban environment. So this probably is you as well. I'm probably slightly disrespecting Northampton, calling it a slightly urban environment.
It's actually quite rural.
Oh, really? Okay, good. Okay. So, but there's ease in everything. Right. So I walk outside and my car's there. The train is literally 3 minutes over there. There's a bus stop right there. Right. I walk to the Tesco's to get bread or eggs or whatever. It's literally there. And sometimes I'll drive. I'm so lazy. Right. Most of the time I work from this very seat that I'm sitting in. And therefore, where I'm going to get these, this, we turn on the tap and water comes out. And
your step count. Where's your step count?
And it's just everything is easy. And I think we're not designed for ease. We're not designed to have an easy life. And I think modern society has made life easy, but that's to the detriment of something, health or mental well-being or closeness to God. So like I said, we were at this place yesterday and they've got like it's like a bandstand. You used to have the bandstands in parks. It's like a bandstand made of wood in middle of a field for Salah, right? So that's
amazing.
On one side there's goats baying, the other side there's like crops growing. And I prayed there and I felt such peace. Such peace. Because I thought, actually, do you know why I feel it? Because I'm smack dab in the middle of nature where I'm supposed to be. There's nothing distracting me. There's no man-made things distracting me. There's just God-made things. And this is our natural environment.
No, it sounds stunning. I think that's what it is, because I think, we used to like built up areas, generally speaking, obviously. That's why I just think, if you can get out and about, I think that's the main thing. And just connect. And I said, it's almost like when I say habits, when you do something a little bit regularly and often, we know that from our faith, whether it's doing deeds or giving to charity, if it becomes habitual, you don't realize it, and inshallah get rewarded for that little bit. But that reward in this case will be just for yourself, for the peace of mind and for your health, as opposed to, as we know, worldly, everyone resets the counter and tries to go to the gym at the start of an calendar year, but then they give up very easily.
So the money that I give as a direct debit to whoever I give it to, I've never missed it.
Perfect. Same.
I don't even know that it's gone. And there's multiple direct debits, and not huge amounts of money, but multiple direct debits that go out and do certain things. And I've never missed them. I've never gone, oh God, there's that £10 where just if you do it, you set it up and you do it habitually, and it's just going out. It's such a good thing to do. Such a good thing.
No, mashallah, that's good. No, I encourage everybody. I think it's because obviously we've got to be realistic, whatever you can afford, but if you can, then as I said, you just feel blessed because you know that at least that's that little thing you can say, you know what, it's become habitual.
So what uni did you go to?
I went to university in Sheffield. So I went university in Sheffield because it was a bit of a strange mindset in the sense that
your birthplace.
That's it. I was born in Sheffield, but was only 6 months old, if that. Coming down to Northamptonshire, I just thought, what would it have been like had I been brought up in Sheffield? So it's purely on a romantic kind of notion, as obviously the course was great, accounting and financial management in terms of. I just thought, it'll give me exemptions to do professional examinations and what have you. But as a place, as Sheffield, it was just fantastic, as in very leafy, very hilly. It wasn't obviously as big as the likes of Birmingham's or your Manchesters. It wasn't as concrete as Leeds or whatever. But it was just nice in that sense. And obviously the rest is history, because after I went, obviously the brothers took different years out kind of thing. So no overlap, obviously. So my middle brother went to Sheffield. He did chemical engineering. The youngest brother went to Sheffield. He did journalism.
You're a trendsetter for your family.
All different. And obviously, looking back, obviously, it is obviously Alumni's best. But when it's like written in that sense, it's so bizarre looking back. Obviously, everything, you know, we're grateful for, but you're thinking at the time, had I literally, you know, almost that, you know, like Back to the Future. I'm not really into films, but I do, you know, love the first Back to the Future as a story. But if you think about it, had I not gone there, would the rest have happened? Kind of thing. Obviously, you know, Islamically, it's obviously different mindset, but you know, it was quite funny because we're thinking, wow, it's crazy. Had I not gone then, other brother wouldn't have gone there. Other brothers,
true.
It is funny, yeah.
True. True. And so, did you have? Was there some encouragement from home, or was there? Did you have your mindset on kind of the accountancy thing straight off the bat, or was it you or your parents? I suppose that's the question.
No, it's interesting actually. It is in the sense that because I was the first to go to university in the family. If anything, it was my friends in sixth form. You know, this is like known amongst our brothers. You know, we just do look back actually, because unfortunately, that's one thing about the power of role models or people you can relate to. Unfortunately, that's one of the downsides of growing up in a small family. We don't have any cousins in here, UK. We don't really have a town where you can say you can look up to the generation above us, because you know, mashallah, they're amazing what they did, the elders, but it would have been restaurateurs setting up mosques and halal butchers and what have you. But no one, inverted commas, were professional that in our circles. So when it came to looking for inspiration, unfortunately, in the absence of anything, it was the peer group. It was the peer group at school.
You were very lucky then.
I was lucky. I feel blessed because honestly, I can tell you now, had I not gone, the rest obviously is history, but Islamically, obviously, you know, whatever's written is written. But it was their motivation, because I forgot to mention, you know, one of my favorite subjects actually, alongside the logical maths and the other side, the creative arts, was geography. And I could have easily have done geography, but this is going to sound ridiculous, but I remember my geography teacher at A-level, she really desperately tried to encourage me and a couple of others to go to Oxford. We had our day trip to Oxford, visited college, and me being me, it's almost as though back then you're just thinking, never going to fit here, never going to fit in, basically. And you know that it was just like nobody else around me has ever been to Oxbridge, kind of thing. And then I just thought, you know what, my heart set on, you know, Russell Group, Sheffield, that it was basically, and to a logical subject. You know, it's just bizarre, but obviously, who knows what could have happened? Basically,
who knows, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What you do is what is meant to happen.
Yeah,
and I suppose you can't, despite something being good or bad, you can't kind of go, oh no, you know, I shouldn't have done this, or I shouldn't.
No, never. I think, honestly, everything, alhamdulillah, I just thinking that's one eternally, you know, one of those people forever smiling, because obviously count the blessings, and obviously because obviously amongst the things at university, obviously Sheffield, you know, I just love the music scene and I loved events, obviously event management, and so I volunteered for the entire 3 years in the student union as a part of the events, you know, kind of unit. So basically all the gigs that would have happened at the student union, because Sheffield was really prominent for events scene. So from first generation Blur, Verve, Nirvana, you know, Prodigy, and all these.
So have you seen all these groups?
Oh yeah. Wow. So I was involved in. So the smallest gig would have been like, you know, probably 100 and something, and the largest one would be at the start and end of the term, which was about 3,000 people. So you look back at age 18, 19, 20. You know, you're co-managing as a team and putting on events of that scale, but there's just literally no fear, because
you saw Nirvana live.
Yeah. That was just like, it was honestly. The rest is obviously, you know, sadly, you know, whatever. And then there's other. I've got loads of stories like people like Cypress Hill. They were a bit of an interesting bunch of people. So they're the only ones that wanted their final balance paid in cash. Everybody else got bank transfer. So I had to go down to see them with a brown envelope, jiffy envelope, with several K in the, and obviously in those days, obviously as venues, there's indoor smoking. You can imagine what they were smoking.
Oh wow!
So knock on the door. The management team obviously opened up door. And Cypress Hill were then there, and it was indoor. It's not a smoke machine; it's what they've been smoking. And they said, "What do you think of the gig?" As if I was going to be stupid enough to say it was all right. Obviously, and they go, "Oh, do you want to join us?" And I thought, "Nope, it's not halal. Walk away." But it was funny, actually, looking back.
That's the question, then, isn't it? I mean, how do you weigh up your obvious religiosity with having to navigate that, because you do kind of have to navigate some of these things. Some of these things, you know, especially in the West, when we're not in a Muslim country, we have we have to kind of make choices about what we'll allow in and what we'll just say no to. Early on, especially coming from a background where there's not a lot of Muslims around you. Do you find that difficult, or did you just go, I've got certain red lines that I will not cross?
No, honestly, again, we look back amongst our brothers in particular, we just think, alhamdulillah, obviously all three went to university and what have you, but it's almost about the upbringing, despite not having too many Muslims around us, basically, but almost entrusted, from our parents, basically, the values that we were brought up with, the manners and the incredible discipline. It's just almost as though we know what we shouldn't be doing. And absolutely, one thing I look back and I just think, alhamdulillah, for there's not only just a little temptation, it's called zero temptation.
Right.
Just
yes.
literally is that level of faith, that which I feel blessed in. Obviously, the level of faith to know that it's not one of those, oh, let's experiment.
So I found this very interesting. I went to Las Vegas.
Nice.
Right. And at no point, and I don't know if you've been to Las Vegas, but Las Vegas is literally the city of setting up. They look at the 7 deadly sins and they go, right, tick that one, tick that. Oh, we can't legally kill anybody, but apart from that, we'll tick off all the others because we're doing all of that. And alhamdulillah, and I'm not saying this to be boastful, but there's something in our upbringing, especially those in the West, I think, that have been brought up a certain way, that can just go, I don't feel anything. I don't feel any need for any of those things. I don't feel any need for any of those things. And when there's not a need for them, there's no desire for them, you're not going to do them because you're like, well,
that's it. Exactly.
I could have bought a lottery ticket at home and gambled. Right. There's all these horrible things that you see in London. Why am I going to go all the way into there to see them? Right.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true.
That's a very interesting phenomenon. I wonder where else that's happened, where that we find that useful that we're currently not even thinking about.
I
do wonder. So your university life, obviously, you've navigated getting through university in a good way, and I know that because you got a good job, and you navigated the kind of the social elements in a way that was correct to you. What were some of the things that you really came away from university going, oh right, this is what I think is a lesson from all of these things that I've done so far?
Yeah, I would say one of the things is obviously, I think it's a tricky one, but it's almost like it's all the cliche stuff that in terms of where now in the world of work, this is like 20 years on, when they're using phrases like bring your whole self to work and all that kind of concept. But looking back in the 90s, for me, obviously, it's not a case of bring your whole self. It's a case of be who you are. Be who you are, be true to yourself, be authentic. Because one thing at university, I do remember, obviously, much of the amazing spectrum of people that you just never would have come across in your own town, in your own county. Obviously, those who are, brought up in cities, they would have been exposed to that, growing up in sixth form or even secondary school. But for me, obviously, to come across the international spectrum of people, so whether it's the Malaysian students, the Middle Eastern students, or what have you, you're thinking, or, continental, you're thinking, wow, your paths wouldn't have crossed, just ordinarily wouldn't. So it's either you embrace it, which for me, I love people and I love culture, which is great. And the ease and ability to just like converse and make friends and stuff, it's really easy for me. But there were those, I'm not saying they found it difficult, but it just wasn't in their interest. They just stuck to the silo mentality. So, for example, there were those who already knew one another from Birmingham or for the Manchester.
And they stuck together.
That notion of cliquey, where you think and see in films like in American high school or whatever. But that notion of clique, whereas you on your own, you literally are survival of yourself. By making an effort, it opens eyes, open ears, open hearts, and it's all cliche, but it really was just like a cultural kind of like a wake up call. There is life outside your county, is one thing, but more so embrace it, because that world, is just like to be explored. And that was where the world came to you, but then almost set the tone for, inshallah, going forward, you then go and see the world. And that's like my interest in covered travel happened much later in life, but it was just that the love. So that's one kind of lesson, that the cultural melting pot, basically. That was just amazing. It feels like
what you're saying is that there is a level of tolerance there naturally, because you saw these different sorts of people and you went, well, I'm not necessarily like them,
Yeah.
but I can see some good in all of these people.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that's a really important thing, and I think as Muslims sometimes forget that, right?
It is, and the other thing,
Muslim prophet, that's it, you know, and we shouldn't be thinking like that. The prophet didn't think like that, right?
It's true, and obviously, and then the case of going back to the point about bring your whole self, obviously, and be proud of who you are. You know, for us, we're from working class heritage, background. We just like literally who we are is who we are. But then obviously, hello, welcome to the world of university, where some people already arrive with fancy cars and bank of mum and dad, obviously. Whereas I was one of the last lot in the UK system to have a grant, which is unprecedented, and obviously literally next to nothing. Obviously we had income wise sort of thing. Obviously my dad didn't have anything he can do, because obviously, you know, coming from the factory kind of background. So humble, you know, kind of, you know, upbringing, but alhamdulillah, we're grateful for the opportunities is one thing, but also as a mindset to say, you know what, we can make it. And it's obviously nothing to do with that successful paper labels, but make it in the sense that go through the system, inverted commas, so the system being after sixth form, it's university, after university, it's the world of careers. But the ultimate thing is, doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, if you keep your nose clean, your head down, inshallah, you know, work hard, you can make it. Because, you know, my first job was with, you know, in the world of accountancy, obviously was with Grant Thornton. So they're a leading firm, you know, mashallah, which is great, but I wanted to stick to local setup, so Northamptonshire. So there was one of the offices there. And then obviously, you know, without obviously naming names, because not that this will go viral, but there will be colleagues who came from the public school kind of route, which is absolutely fantastic. Lucky for them, obviously, you know, they were blessed to, you know, that's their upbringing essentially, and they're almost like, I don't want to say born with silver spoon, but it's a totally different parallel. But here we are, we're all at the same table. So just shows.
Know Mudassir from PwC?
No, I don't think I do.
Used to be on the board. Mudassir Yusuf.
You know what? I think it's one of those. I feel
you know his
I would
face.
definitely recognize my face. You know, forgive me. Yeah.
And I remember. So he's from Bedford. So he's kind of similar. You know, it's not a village, but it's not a big city. And from a humble background like us. And I remember we were working together, and he was a senior manager. I was a manager. He's probably about the same age, but he joined consulting before I did. And he's on a project, and he's laughing with me. We're just joking. He said it's really funny that there's a consultant whose family is obviously hugely well off, a young white kid, and he's gone to a private school, come out of Oxford or Cambridge, and obviously from a very wealthy family, from very highly educated kind of family as well. And he's taking orders from the son of whatever it was.
Sure.
And he goes, it's actually very good for him as well as being good for me, because there is a very important idea of meritocracy which our society is very quickly forgetting about. And it's something that those firms still have some, because they realize, I mean, not completely, because, you know, there are issues that they need to fix, but there is this idea of meritocracy, and it is a very important idea, and it is, for me, the foundation of any successful society. People need to be going up the so-called ladder because of the good work that they do, not because of their background, not because of their gender, not because of anything else, but it needs to be because they are the best person for that job at that point in time. This young white kid who was a consultant at the time hopefully would eventually become a senior manager and director, but hopefully not quicker than somebody who is just as good as them and is from a different background. And that thing is very, very important. I think you know, going forward, we need to make sure that we continue to work on that. I think one of the issues of our you know, Pakistani, Bengali, Indian, etc. I think India's done well on this, but the others are we still have this issue. Is we don't necessarily follow the idea of meritocracy to the full. We still kind of, he's so and so's son, or he's so and so, she's so and so's daughter. And that we need to weed that out, right?
I think so. I think but obviously, all that said and done, you know, we have to be real, like exactly what you said. The system is still, there's room for improvement, because we know
I mean,
how
we've got Boris Johnson as a prime minister, so that says
well, you know, we say basically, no, the elites, but then equally, you know, I know that obviously in the world of Grant Thornton, I remember obviously having qualified, gone through the audit route, gave me wonderful exposure to mainly the SME market, more so
Right.
than the blue chip and the FTSE
So what
clients.
was Grant Thornton like? Because it's not like
Mm.
there's very consulting
Yeah.
type firms like the EY, the KPMG,
Big Four, yeah.
Deloitte, and then there's the actually Deloitte is very much cross audit and advisory, which they might now change, but and then Grant Thornton is not. It's slightly separate from these, right?
That's
it's got
it.
a separate kind of atmosphere.
Culture.
Separate, what's it? Culture. That's the word I'm looking for.
I'll be honest. Like? Actually, I've got fond memories in terms of obviously I qualified in like one of their smaller offices in Northamptonshire. It's like a town called Kettering, and then I'll be honest actually because it's only 150 odd in the office and very, very comfortable to get to know everybody. So cross office, cross discipline. So audit background, know someone in personal tax, corporate tax, VAT versus the general practice, the corporate finance. So where if you were in a larger office, basically your paths wouldn't cross because the sheer scale. This was really fantastic for networking purposes, without knowing it was networking, but it was like getting to know people.
Knowing everybody.
That's it. That's one thing. And then when I transferred to the London office, basically, originally on secondment, then that became permanent. I found it really comfortable, although the scale was bigger, nearly 1,000 people or whatever in that office, but not a problem because it became habitual. Talk to someone for different discipline. For whatever purpose, you're just thinking it shouldn't be like the silo mentality in that sense.
And I think,
but here's
the skill that you have that I've noticed, and I've noticed that it is a foundational skill if you want to be successful in life. There are very few people who have the ability, don't have this ability, who are successful in any kind of worldly pursuit, and that is the ability to communicate with anybody. I think it's just the most important thing.
I'll be honest, actually,
go learn it because you need to go and be able to speak to people.
That's interesting you say that, because I'll be honest, it's one of those skills or traits that you aren't actually taught. It is almost like off you go, because for everything else that could be, the professional development and post qualification, you just, excel in your knowledge and acquire knowledge in different disciplines, but then you learn traits, skills, say leadership skills or time management and everything that's very corporate kind of, or people management. But project the actual art of networking is almost like, as I call it, an art of networking, where just for me, I found it easy because alhamdulillah, I just respect and love people, irrespective of their paper title. So to me, honestly, with the utmost respect, I don't care if somebody is X paper label or Y paper label. So from your receptionist to security people, the facilities management, through all the way up to global partners, basically, I just give them equal respect, and that by caring about them and their welfare and how they're getting on, and then vice versa. You can see obviously there's some that won't reciprocate that. Some will be quite snooty, oh, he's only a junior, or he's only whatever. I did discover, oh wow, that was a bit cold, kind of thing, or so and so. But then I just thought, you know what, that's not me, that's them, let it go, because to me, I'm cracking on with it basically. And then by keeping that within the world of work, I thought, hang on, I need to apply that out of hours basically. So that was the social scene, and obviously that's when I founded Emeralds.
So how long did you do the Grant Thornton?
Gosh, that's the only job I've ever had. Sounds ridiculous. Ridiculous. I moved around probably about 3 different times basically within the firm, secondment turning permanent. But I actually specialize, having gone through audits, I love tech basically. So I specialize in audit and accounting software. So in the end, I had a role where I was managing the firm's accounting software. So that was, my clients were internal clients, i.e. every single Grant Thornton office's audit practice. That would have been who I was liaising with basically. So it gave me a great exposure nationwide to obviously have the reason to visit every single office basically. So internally that was that. So that was pretty much all my life, almost. I'll call it working life, as in. And then obviously 10 years ago. I'm sorry,
how many years were you there?
Gosh, I think it could have been about 17, I think.
As long as that?
As long as that, it's almost unheard of anyone stays that long basically. So having moved along, said X years, and the last role would have been what have you. But it was just incredible.
So in my mind, it's I thought Rooful was at Grant Thornton for 6 or 7 years.
Oh no, it's incredible. Obviously moved around, but that's literally. And then obviously the last 9 years or so I went freelance. That's in literally.
So talk to me now. Okay. So timeline. You joined. You were there for 17 years.
So I've moved around.
Point did you go, right, I'm really interested in this networking malarkey, and the idea of Emerald formed? So explain to people who don't know what Emerald is, what it is, and then let's talk a bit about Emerald, because I'm fascinated. I'm really interested.
No problem. Well, it's interesting because obviously, having spent only, I think it was about 5 years or so at Grant Thornton in Northamptonshire, that's when I qualified, stayed on post qualified in the audit sphere basically. Then when I went to secondment initially to London, that was like in the early noughties basically. I just thought, welcome to London basically, still Grant Thornton obviously, but then I just thought, so socially, come on, Grant Thornton, let's have it. What do we do after hours? Amongst the Muslims in the office, because obviously there's more Muslims than I would have ever exposed to previously. But then this was the wake-up call, because with the utmost respect to my then colleagues, it was almost nothing all timeline. Then Ramadan comes along, they get a bit sociable. Eid came along, great, like a works do or post works do kind of thing. But then the timeline went a bit silent and apathetic. I'm sorry if they're watching this, but
they went to the whole kebab house for dinner, and then after that there was nothing.
I'll be honest, actually, it was almost a little bit frustrating, but there were some good guys there, mashallah, amazing in terms of like catching up for Jamur and what have you, and very encouraging. But when it came to simple, the social thing just wasn't for them, because either they had families already been brought up in London, but I was like the newbie thinking, hello London, what do you guys do after hours basically? And there wasn't anything. So obviously initially it would have been an Eid event, which is a dinner in Drummond Street, for those who are familiar with London. It's near Euston, where Grant Thornton used to be. And then I just thought, okay, come on guys, after this month being obviously Eid, let's make it the final Monday of every month, same restaurant, same simple setup. And I called it what was then basically Monday Night Muslim Social. So it's like Monday Night Muslim Social, the final Monday, the final Monday, final Monday. And it was in those days, obviously, I laugh looking back, obviously, pre-Eventbrite, pre-Facebook. It was basically purely viral and complete geek.
Word of mouth.
The guest list would have been just an Excel spreadsheet. So everyone email, and I'd had registered back then muslimsocials.com. So it was like info@muslimsocials.com. It probably doesn't exist anymore, basically. And then I'd compile this. But I needed to give it a name, because no one can say Monday Night Muslim Social, because it's quite wordy. So I came up with a chic brand name where I just thought Emerald, synonymous with green, subliminally Islamic, but without the M word or without the I word. We just said Emerald : Monday Night Muslim Social, and nobody said that mouthful. They said, are you going to Emerald? Are you going to Emerald? Are you going to Emerald? Kind of thing, which is nice, obviously heartwarming to know that word of mouth has spread. And then that's where Emerald Network was kind of formed, because I just thought, let's keep it going, inshallah, every single month. Just once a month. We had volunteers from my work as in Grant Thornton, colleagues would, and then before you know it, the circle was kind of just expanded and expanded. So initially, being viral, it would have been fellow accountancy firms, banks, lawyers, IT consultants, because it's that kind of overlapping kind of sectors. And then miraculously, power of word of mouth as you do, then you suddenly had medics come along, dentists come along, journalists come along, and then I thought, whoa, we're onto something here basically. But then obviously volunteers come and go due to family commitments, and then move up. But we kept it going, and I say we as a royal we, but obviously it's me, obviously, in terms of keeping it going. Alhamdulillah.
I don't know anybody else who I would associate with Emerald. It's not like the Cube guys, where there's at least kind of 6 or 7 people that I associate with being part of Cube, right? With Emerald, I associate you with that, and that's it.
That's the thing. Well, because in the early days, there used to be like a core team, and then we just literally evolved. And alhamdulillah, we grew. So we did events in Birmingham, did events in Leicester, Sheffield, Manchester. And again, through word of mouth, we had amazing volunteers that we just literally pick up and say, we'll look after that cities kind of thing. But obviously, I'll be physically present in all of those places. But
how, is it going over 15 years now?
Oh, well, it's 17, 18 years, I think it is. So 2004. So it is a long while. So alhamdulillah, I feel incredibly blessed, because obviously it has evolved since. Because obviously initially it would have been just purely restaurant-based events, but what happened thereafter is just through getting the vibe from people to say, from a Muslim social perspective, on the grounds that everyone pretty much in the corporate world, whether you love or hate it, probably attends events, networking events. You're there with your J2Os or your full fat Coke. Basically, you don't fit in, but you're thinking, oh, if I don't go, and that's that mindset. If I don't go, implications on my career, implications on promotion,
yeah.
visibility. But then I was thinking, come on, guys, we should be strong enough to be able to say, imagine for those in business development, have your book, have your network, have your pipeline, have your contacts, which shouldn't involve relying purely on those after work kind of drinks. But then the obvious question, well, where will we get those contacts? Where will we? And that, alhamdulillah, became an avenue. Because I remember, and there's so many stories about Emerald, obviously I can bore you guys, but there's one story when, because of bank holiday Monday, the final Monday, we couldn't host it because the restaurant was closed. So we had to shift it to a Saturday. So we brought it forward to a Saturday. So this was the game changer, if I look back at Emerald, where I was thinking, oh, I'm in an hour in, that's not classed as the after work event. It's a Saturday evening. What's going to happen? Will people venture into central London? The rest is history, because we had, and I've completely blown away, we had people travel down from Newcastle, Glasgow, Yorkshire, Birmingham, people from the South Coast, people from Bristol. The list goes on, where I just thought, this is incredible. Obviously, alhamdulillah, it was just almost like humbling, because I just couldn't believe the appetite for inverted commas Muslim professionals just to connect basically socially. But then one of the stories on a Saturday I was just alluding to, basically this guy came up to me, massive hug at the end of the evening, and he goes, bro, I just want to say I've just struck a deal, do pensions advisories, 27k contract I've just won, thank you. And I thought,
that's brilliant.
I didn't get the 10%.
Where's my commission?
No, joking, basically. But
where's my commission, bro?
I know exactly, where's my 10%, bro? But I was just laughing, because it was like, on the Saturday, he still went into work mode, bless him, basically. But the rest is history. He used it for his own benefit. And obviously, most people were just there for social purposes. But we knew that, obviously, the benefit networking gave with like-minded people was just the start of many stories.
So tell me, how many people do you have on your Emerald mailing list now, your account?
Gosh, I think as an aggregate, so across platforms, so because obviously we've got different kind of providers and stuff, and it could be towards the 15,000, I think. So it's between, but I think 12.5 to 15,000.
Serious numbers, bro.
So serious numbers. Obviously, we know that obviously some people might have moved on, but also the fact is, alhamdulillah, just organic growth. Don't have any money to advertise or do any campaigns, basically.
So at what point did you go, right, Grant Thornton's great, but actually I don't need to do that anymore? Because I mean, the question is probably the other way. Is there any money coming in from it now? Are you making?
No. That's almost like one of the absolute classic, almost like frequently asked questions. Go, oh, Emerald, must be like it's a voluntary run thing. So we do voluntary run. When it comes to like tickets, we were absolutely honest. There's a couple of quids, basically premium, which covers the cost of the volunteers. So the classic example, volunteers, if they're having their meal as a thank you, obviously I can't obviously expect them to also buy a ticket to cover the cost of the restaurant. So it's just that view back. And if there's any printing cost or anything going, so we are literally zero profit, unfortunately, but we'd love to obviously be sponsored or anything like that kind of thing going forward. So obviously Emerald will never be like an income generating thing. However, as a means to network and generate leads, it has been beneficial. So give you an example, when in parallel in Grant Thornton, obviously when my passion for photography started, I was getting like, I would say, wedding invitations to say, oh, can you cover my friend's wedding? So obviously I'm like a newbie self-taught photographer, basically. And I was thinking, oh, I can be a second shooter, not the main guy, basically. But they entrusted, which is amazing, obviously, because it was initially, in fact, one of the very first assignments, it was actually one of my colleagues in Grant Thornton. It was his brother who's getting married, and literally a few £100 in those days. It was a case of just like, do you mind? I thought, no, happy to be, his side as opposed to the bride's side, cover that. Great fun, basically. And that gave me the confidence, obviously, to use the Emerald for contacts and free contacts. Got to know people in the creative industry, other photographers, kind of thing, which is good for inspiration and learning. That was the main thing.
Your main source of income when you left Grant Thornton was photography?
Initially it was photography, but then obviously one of my other things that I did obviously was branding and design, which again, growing up, just loved drawing. And in another world, obviously I might have obviously considered doing graphic design at university or something, but I just thought no need.
Do you remember there was an event at Norton Rose, probably 2017, 16, something like that. And there was an Eid event where we had to design
Yes, I remember.
Box for some.
It was a box of chocolates. I remember it very well. Do you remember?
And I was so happy that I ended up in your group.
That's the thing.
Because you knocked it out of the park and we got free chocolate.
It was so funny because obviously I love anything like remotely almost like an apprentice challenge or something like that. So off you go, time constraints. And I remember it was chocolate. You had to come up with the brands, come up with the packaging, come up with a name, blank white box, a load of Sharpie markers, away you go. And I just looked around to my left and right. I thought, we've got this, guys. And then I came up, because you remember, it was
I'm more than happy to kind of do the advertising. If you could do the branding and the marketing and all that sort of thing.
I know. I remember it so vividly because obviously we were in More London.
Yes.
And then I just thought, let's play on the word more and think Moorish.
Yes.
And that was subliminally. And I just thought Moorish luxury chocolates kind of thing. And then the design, I did like geometric, kind of inspired by Andalusia, but clearly with 7 minutes and felt tips couldn't really do much, but made it colourful. And then it was, it was brilliant, wasn't it? That was great.
So what then gave you the kind of confidence to go, right, I'm done with Grant Thornton now, it's time to do my own thing?
Yeah, I was, be honest, actually, because, you know, I would say to anyone, you know, everyone's got a passion, everyone wants to start their own business and what have you, but being brutal and ruthless, as I call it, you've got to be honest with yourself. You can't just go overnight, switch off the tap, and now I'll start something new. To me, everything was in parallel. So in parallel, there would have been a good 2-3 years when I thought, you know what, I'm getting better at photography, and that was my initial passion, obviously. But equally, I knew that it's never going to be financially as rewarding as the corporate world, but is money everything? And for me, it's a case of, you know, to me, alhamdulillah, you know, my lifestyle, for those who know, I'm just like pretty frugal in the sense that simple lifestyle, no fancy cars. Alhamdulillah, I'm blessed for a nice house, but it's a case of, you know, I'm a chicken cottage guy, let's be honest, actually. You know, Nando's, you know, Nando's is like pushing it basically, but it's not as though I have like an expensive lifestyle. So I could, you know, alhamdulillah, you know, massive pay cut, obviously going out on your own, and a very irregular income.
Right.
But what you do and where you go, you know, and what benefit you bring to others, to me, that was a driver. So from a faith point of view, you know, if you think, you know, the best of you are those who benefit others. So if I can benefit others, you know, in any shape or form, that to me was more of a driver. And obviously, yes, of course, accountancy, it can benefit others, but it seems quite clinical compared to say, the creative world, to bring a smile on someone's face, to help a charity. So one of my, you know, I would say favorite assignments, for probably the wrong reasons, was obviously the grimness. You know, it was pretty grim. Was going out overseas with Muslim hands. So Muslim hands, mashallah, you know, been out over 3 times, probably for different countries. So Niger, Mali, Sudan, Somalia, Bangladesh. So I've been to many countries.
And with your camera?
Yeah, that's it. So they literally, you know, took me out for my photography, but to say document our projects. But they like my style, which is very much photojournalist style, very creative. Because obviously we can line people up with holding a bucket outside a well. Anyone can do that, even with a camera phone, basically. But for me, it was almost capturing the essence of the locals, basically. See the grit, see the emotion, see the hardship, but equally see the joy. So to me, to capture the smiles, say, I remember so many stories, but in like Sudan, their school of excellence, when the school bus came along, and it was like, obviously the kids just chasing up on boarding the bus, and you can see there's one epic photo that I've got where the little window kind of opens and the little girl put that elbow out kind of thing, and just like waving away kind of thing, and just see the smile of literally they love school. And now compare that to obviously in parts of UK where it's got to go to school kind of thing. So that as a visual image, you know, I'll always remember. Then you look at Niger, the grim reality of the lack of water, and you see, I'll be honest, actually, what clearly is, you know, filthy water, unfortunately, like muddy in you know, colouring basically. But that is sadly their drinking water for the livelihood, plus, you know, for, you know, the local families. But then on the back of that, that became a campaign for Muslim Hands in Canada, and they would have raised $2 million. And so from the series of photos, to think that kind of benefit happens, that makes it kind of worthwhile kind of thing. So whichever, that's amazing. Yeah, that's the thing. So I just think the power of imagery. Yeah,
you've obviously done very well in the photography, but it's not just a monetary gain. You've actually won some big prizes. You won some big awards.
Yeah,
So
I'll
tell
be
us a little
honest.
bit about
Actually,
those. There's a very famous wedding
yeah,
photo of a really gorgeous couple.
yeah,
And then there's a young man and there's
yeah,
his bride, and she's
yeah.
kind of jumping, and it's such a beautiful
Jumping up.
picture. Tell us about
Yeah,
that.
that was amazing. So that there were Shiroz and Sanja was in terms of friends basically
Right.
who got married at Sion House. So it's like
Oh, it's
Sion
just
Park
up the
in
road. Okay.
yeah, for you guys it's in West London basically. So
Yeah.
we'd pretty much finished like the indoor shoot basically. But I just thought, you know what, keep walking, be silly, be yourselves, which I try and encourage all couples to be, because we can do the arty kind of serious pose, and that's not really them. Express yourselves, guys, basically. And then he just like jumped, and she obviously the weight of the outfit, you can't really kick it too far up. But the way at 2000th of a second machine gun effect, and I just thought, and we all laughed, thinking, "Oh my gosh, we've caught you guys midair."
Midair, beautiful.
Just looks amazing. So I just thought curiosity. The EPAS, which is Event Photography Awards in UK, the wedding category, I thought just enter it, and I'll just call it "Love Is in the Air" because it's literally jumping
That's
up.
so sweet.
Entitled. Thought nothing of it, and then before you know it, I just got an email to say you're invited as a finalist to literally the award ceremony. And I just thought, this is insane kind of thing, because obviously self-taught photographer, only been a few years in it basically. Went along basically, and then I was shortlisted, and then they went through the top 10 basically, and they go announce a winner. I just had to pinch myself, because you're thinking, that's like mainstream. With the utmost respect, I'm not criticizing Asians backpatting one another basically, but this was like the mainstream kind of thing, recognizing. And I thought, alhamdulillah, it was just, that was like quite pivotal, and that gave me almost like the encouragement to say any other awards or competitions, go and enter.
Go into.
And there was, like Nikon, they did a year-end montage for 2015 and 2016, and back to back 2 years in a row I was in there basically. So that was end of year, and one of them, it was actually a photo from Muslim Hand's trip to Mogadishu in Somalia, where there was a boy, and some people might recognize this photo, where piercing blue eyes. So mashallah, you can imagine the dark skin, electric blue eyes. That's a condition he had. Forgive me, I can't remember the name of the condition. He's not blind or anything like that. But the blue eyes, and then the blue wall, as in a lot of schools had this kind of like a turquoisey teal kind of bright walls, matched his eyes. So zero edits. I just saw that and I thought, quickly get someone to translate. Can I borrow that kid for literally a few seconds? Take him out the classroom, take a picture basically. And it was mesmerizing. That couldn't match basically, and it just shows. And then you had to hashtag it, because Nikon, it was "I am." That was the theme. I am, and you're something. So I am scared. I am this. I am ecstatic. I am celebrating. But I just put "I am different." That was it. I am different, because he is literally unique in his visual presence and his outlook, and that was it. That got used in the montage, which is amazing. And Muslim Hands used it for the cover of their annual report, and it was just like
amazing. And did these awards kind of increase your demand?
I'll be honest with you, there were people who were now thinking, oh, no, despite being self-taught, so he must be half decent kind of thing in that sense. So it was almost as though you got two schools of thought. The absolute outsiders who discovered me on Instagram, which is amazing. I always fully respect that. Then there were those who are the friends of friends of friends, or through the Emerald Network. They're just thinking, but isn't he an accountant kind of thing? How could you, whatever. And I just think, I'm not, boasting or anything, but to me, alhamdulillah, other people recognize my work, which is great. That in the end led, the door started opening, and then I've done so many unique assignments. The crucial thing about my photography journey, I'll be honest, and I say that to everybody, we can all have a passion for photography, and if inshallah, for everyone who wants to make it, go for it. It's a struggle obviously, but go for it. But one thing is, it's easy to just specialize in one genre. So for example, wedding, just do weddings. Events, do just events, and do it very well. But for me, I just think, because I've always loved everything basically, it's almost impossible. So as a result, my portfolio has been just the most eclectic and wide, and to the point of, I almost like would love to put a challenge out there. If there is any photographer who's more senior and experienced than me, has that kind of portfolio, where from humanitarian, documentary, portraits, nature, fashion, because obviously fashion, that's another one where I did a shoot in Istanbul, and the outfit is a pink outfit that absolutely flowed. It's just one of my favorite images. Basically, just it was after Zohar, it's basically mid-afternoon on a Friday. We just stayed on, and basically we just thought, the courtyard's getting empty because people have gone back to home. And obviously we're there as a designer, there's an influencer and myself, and we just thought, quickly check with security. Obviously, we're only going to be 10 minutes, and he was just like, relax, especially and we just did literally, could you imagine, white creamstone, and the courtyard was amazing. Then we went on to a different outfit to the Suleimani Mosque, and that's totally heritage wise and old. And we just found doorways at the side, which was the green, matching the green outfit, and cats, as we know in Istanbul, so many cats missing. And it was so funny, a cat just literally came in front, cat turned around to look at me, and it was so funny. So we've got the cat posing, we've got the model posing. We just did a shot.
Well, the cats are the greatest of models, right? You know, they're natural. They're like God's fashion models.
Oh, it was amazing. It was really, really nice. So I just think, to say
what's
to everyone,
your favorite picture that you've ever taken?
Oh, that's a good one. Obviously, the wedding one, I do love that one, basically. But there's one on the same wedding, basically, where Sharoz, the groom, he bounced off a wall. That sounds a bit strange, but it's almost like as though it's the old school skateboarding style when you run up, bang, come off something. Again, the sheer speed of a shutter speed, obviously, of an SLR, it just captured him as though he was glued to the wall. So obviously now everyone's got to go to @Rooful on Instagram to scroll down.
I was going to say, where do we see all these pictures? We need to make sure you give me a link, and I'll put it.
No problem. But it's just
check out Rooful's pictures because
But that was probably one of my favorite, because that's absolutely, if there was a thing about photography, it's about capturing moments or in time. That was freezing time. It's literally, and to the point of, it's not, you can be inspired, and like I'm inspired, like others are inspired by other photographers. But this one, I can tell you now, good luck to anybody try to recreate that. It's not a ghost thing. It was just so hard, and it was a spur of the moment, but it's just so unique that he's literally against the wall, and the bride obviously sounds just like almost as though he's stuck kind of thing. And that I kind of entered into another competition, just call it Stuck on You, basically. And it was just so nice, and just thinking really, really unique in that sense. So that I do. But then equally, I'm being honest, actually, so that's the fun, the romantic kind of thing. But some of my other favorite ones are just the grim ones from, say, Somalia, Sudan, Niger, Mali, but not one or two that stands out. Just generally, say, capturing water projects, or capturing orphanage, capturing schools, because as a collection of images, to know that it ended up raising money for charity, it just meant that they would have benefited from me initially capturing, basically.
So I've had the opportunity to go to Sudan. And for one reason or the other, I've just not the timing's not been quite right. But it's definitely something I want to do, to be able to go. And to some extent, we're removed from the reality of the situation when you're just going, here's a couple of hundred, right? I've done my part. You have. You've absolutely done your part, but you don't know the reality of the situation. You go see it for yourself, and I think
it's true.
You do have the opportunity, and it's not a bad use of money. So you're going to do something with that experience. Then I think it's something that we should all try to do, because it's true. I think it's my friend Saj was on here from Charity, right? And he said literally when the first time he went to Sudan, he broke down. He literally started crying because you don't realize the reality of the situation until you see it with your own eyes. And I think that's 100%. It's a very powerful thing. A very powerful thing.
It's true. Sorry, I was going to say, because there's one thing obviously going with charities, and obviously they're ring fence projects. So this is a school, this is as well. But then in between that, when you travel and just see literally the local, that's the wake up call, because you look at the absolute, abject poverty, and you see the living conditions. But one humbling thing is, obviously, I know we use the phrase first world problems, and it really is the proper wake up call, because we really have to count our blessings is one thing, and put things in perspective. There's one lesson I would say is, there we moan and groan, oh my gosh, the Wi-Fi signal isn't strong, or oh, there's a queue at a so-and-so restaurant. You're thinking, really, guys, you're about to go and eat, kind of thing. You are going to get fed. Over there, it's really, really, absolutely grim, obviously. But for them, they have faith. Their strength in faith is one thing that you can never take away from. And I think the smiles when they've absolutely got nothing. And I'm just thinking, and they're praying for us, and you're thinking, hang on, this is insane, kind of thing. You think, obviously, on the initial kind of thing. But I would say, obviously, there was orphans. There was one widow I met in like an internally displaced, so basically effectively like a camp, basically internally displaced people camp in Mogadishu or just outside. And she had 5 young children. She's probably early 30s, but widow because her husband sadly, died in a car blast, basically, unfortunately.
Wow.
But the level of smiles, and the kids were just like giggling away because they're just thinking, we're grateful. And you think, and they wanted to feed us, and I was thinking, no, this isn't. Obviously, they wanted
It's not the way.
yeah, exactly. But
Don't
I
need
just
any feeding, has it?
exactly. So that was, obviously, I'll be honest, I know that, and that's not a criticism of Muslim hands or anything like that. But most people would probably have training on a psychological and mental kind of health kind of point of view when you almost like traumatic, because you do see stuff basically. I didn't really, and I think that's one thing I wish I did, because mentally, when I came back, it was like complete shock. It was a shock. Obviously you can't break down, obviously human nature, you can do, but it put things in perspective. And that was actually one of the game-changing moments for me, because that's back in 2015, I think it was, where then I just thought, obviously a few years out of accountancy, a few years out of corporate world, but now, and this isn't me being slightly too harsh on colleagues who are still in the corporate world, but when they moan and groan about the little things, obviously I could just say something back, but I don't want to be sarcastic or facetious, but I just think, what, I'm going to turn away, because I probably will say something that I regret, and it's not in my nature to knowingly hurt anybody. But I remember there was a project called Ramadan Tent Project, which I was involved in for 4 years, and I remember it was a simple meal. There's no two ways about it. It was a simple meal, but alhamdulillah, we got a meal, so let's calm down. So when you had people, obviously bless them, they would say, oh, is there any chili sauce or is there any condiments? And I was thinking, A, it's not a restaurant, bruv. And then B, you can see their faces like moan, and the face just go, oh, is this it, kind of thing. And I thought, wow, I'm going to turn away, because I will say something, obviously ungrateful, but nice. And that's why I remember, I'm digressing slightly, but Medical Aid for Palestine, MAP, they once did an event. So it was one of their anniversaries, so forgive me, I can't remember if it's the 10th anniversary or 15th anniversary. I think it could be 10th anniversary. It was in a very, very fancy Park Lane hotel, won't name it, basically. Phenomenal event, chaired by Jon Snow. Special guest was Yusuf Islam, mashallah. It's just an amazing evening. But the absolute surprise, because it's £150 a ticket, so it's not that cheap, obviously. When it came to the dinner, obviously everyone's expecting a 3-5 course meal, who knows. It was just genius. I still, to this day, remember it. The lights went. They just switched the lights off, and everyone's like murmuring away, thinking this is like a power cut or something.
Yeah, what's going on? And
then the waiters and waitresses came around with a candle. They literally put the candle light on every table, basically. So it was, now that's your lights. And Jon Snow, what a legend. He basically did the voiceover, and he goes, ladies and gentlemen, we want you to experience what it's like in Gaza to have a power cut. And everyone just like round of applause, because that's like so unique in that sense. Hello, you are not going to have the lights back on for a little while, basically. You are going to enjoy candlelight. Then obviously people murmuring away, and then Jon Snow was a legend, where he just said, now you're probably expecting the food to come out something lavish, but we're actually going to make it really simple. A very simple dish, what they would have in Gaza.
That's such a good idea.
And it was just so like very simple, like almost.
Is it Groves and House, by the way?
Yeah, great. It was, that's it. So it was, you can imagine. So it was like chicken, rice beds, and a little bit of vegetable, but it was nothing fancy, no number of courses. That was your meal, basically. And it was a round of applause, and people just thought, we've paid so much, you can get the first world problem thinking I expected a glamorous, because everyone's wearing fancy clothes, but it was humbling, and it was, and that was a nice kind of reminder to say,
that's such a good way of doing it.
We're in a bubble, but
let's
not live in our bubble, basically.
That's such a good way of doing it. That's amazing. So let's pivot slightly away. That's something that I'm very interested in, and I know you are as well. And along your Emerald journey, where did the interest in comedy come from?
Oh my gosh, comedy, I'll be honest with you, back in 2009, I think it was 2008, 2009, when there was something called Allah Made Me Funny. I don't know if you remember the trio from America. So we kind of collaborated with Muslim Aid back then. They did a tour, as it were, a number of dates, obviously, in the UK. It was great for me to think there was comedy, as in comedians, mashallah, they were talented, like Azhar Usman, there was Preacher Moss and Mo Amir, basically the Palestinian American.
Mo Amir is very good.
Absolute genius, very clever, and they had their own signature styles, basically. But inverted commas, halal comedy, in the sense that no need to swear, no profanities, no vulgar. but we were laughing at the pure observational comedy. Obviously,
Yeah,
some of it was very
genius.
US centric. Obviously, we just had to accept. But
Yeah.
the main thing was, I thought, you know what? Looking around here, because there was a one-off at the Apollo, which back then that's a major thing to do.
That is
And
major, yeah.
that was 1,800 people, I think I remember. So it wasn't quite the 3,000 in those days, but it was 1,800 people though. We know there's a demand for Muslim comedy is one thing, but B, there's talent. There is talent out there, and that I remember the almost one of the understudy kind of, I call it understudy, it's not boxing obviously, but one of the supporting acts basically was Nabil Abdul Rashid back then. So that's 2009, and he had won the
I like him.
YM UK, so Young Muslim UK, doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
But YM UK, he won the talent competition and he got himself a slot to be on the Apollo, which is amazing. And I thought back then, I thought this guy's talented, obviously, and the rest is history. He's moved on. And then since then, obviously, we've seen comedians come in terms of come and go. Obviously,
we've got some amazing talent in the UK now for comedians. You know, we've got
Tez Ilyas and Imran Yusuf.
Now a superstar, Imran Yusuf. We've got who's the brother who does the cricket?
Asif Nawaz, fantastic.
Asif Nawaz,
exactly.
You know, for a long time now, he's been doing this stuff for a long time, and he's very good. And we've got some genuine talent. And I think this is something that I wanted to pick up on when you were talking earlier. Funny enough, the Imam today at Jummah kind of went, you know, we're at a place now where we couldn't have really imagined. Your parents couldn't have imagined where you are now, right? Because they were struggling to find places to pray because they couldn't do Jummah because there was nowhere to pray, right? And so their focus was get some money in, feed your families, and then try and get some money together and find somewhere to have a mosque, right?
A classic.
Then the next kind of lot of people, there were some educated people. Now there's some more educated people and they have some money. You know, they're doing some good stuff. And actually, we're at a point now where our next group, I mean, we're already, and you're going to not like this, but we're already at a place where there's a Muslim, despite not being a British Muslim, a Muslim who's topping the scoring league for in the Premier League, right? As Mohamed Salah.
Absolutely.
Right? He's not quite as good as Son, but he's very good, right? And we've got actors who are getting Oscars.
Riz Ahmed.
Riz Ahmed. We've got some of the best doctors in the country of Muslim.
We've
got obviously amazing accountants and photographers. We've got
I don't know who they are.
We've obviously got amazing comedians. We've got we've got QCs, multiple QCs now, not one or two. So we're getting to a position where what is the next level? And I think you know, the genuine household Muslim names are increasing by every generation. And I think you know the genuine Hollywood or film stars, the genuine documentary stars, the genuine sports stars who are going to start making more of a difference is the thing that I want to see next. And it's really interesting to see. It's very beautiful. I mean, it's not a question; it's an observation.
It is. It's interesting because obviously for the to go back to the Emeralds situation. So back in 2019, it was the 15th anniversary of Emeralds, and we did something just as a one-off called Emerald 100. So Emerald 100 was purely nomination based within the network. So this wasn't a case of nominate Mo Salah because he's not an Emerald. Basically, people who've come through the doors of Emerald in the last 15 years. And that essentially was a snapshot where obviously there were some who were from way back and there's some pretty current while it's fresh on the minds. But that was just merely 100 individuals. Some were household names, people like Tez Ilyas and the Atif Nawaz as mentioned. But then, as you said, so from the legal world through to the finance world, through to the journalist world, sustainability world, we literally, that was my eye opener to think, alhamdulillah, amazing to think these were just on a personal level, these are people who come through the doors of Emerald or had some association. But the main thing was exactly what you're saying. That was 2019, obviously 3 years on. We know that, mashallah, some of these have gone on to even bigger and better things. But then forget that in the last 3 years, as you said, more people are coming through on the grounds that saying, you know what, if he can, if she can, I can. With the inshallah suffix, obviously. And then that's the main thing, to be inspired. And I just say to everyone, obviously, where historically, as exactly as you've broken down by generational, there would have been, say, our generation who's the first to go to university, went for the conservative or safe options of qualifying as a doctor, dentist, accountant, lawyer. But the next generation, mashallah, they are absolutely smashing it in terms of, you know, proud of their faith is one thing, but doing things that, you know, we just think, wow, they're in the world of app development, they're in, you know, fintech, for
Exactly.
example,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
world of journalism, and they're all starting their own businesses in whatever,
Yeah.
modest fashion, halal food. They're going for it basically. And I think we've got to be there. And the best way to describe it as like an ecosystem where we can't now also, oh, I want to start my own business and then neglect everything sort of thing.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
we need them to support one another. So the best of finance, the best of legal advice could be from within. Why not look within, and then before you know it, you're supporting one another.
And one thing I've seen is that these people who are successful tend to be successful in multiple things in their life. So my strata of success are obviously faith.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably the faith or that spirituality.
Yeah.
Relationships. You know, mental and physical health.
Yeah.
Mental development. In terms of, you know, what knowledge do you have?
Yeah.
And then I think physical health. Sorry, financial health.
Financial, yeah.
I think those are the 6 things.
Yeah.
Or 5 things if you want to kind of categorize it slightly differently. Those are the key things. And I've noticed that a lot of the people who do really well at something tend to have success in more than one of these 5 things. And it feels like there's something in which they do and the way they think that leads to this kind of position. And that really fascinates me. And that's kind of the reason I started this, because I just want to find out what people do, and I want them to share with our community and other communities as well. There was a question in there which I feel like I haven't got an answer for, and that's because I don't think I asked it properly. In the comedy thing, you did some stand-up yourself.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Tell me what that was like, because I had this fantasy that I would be really good at it, but I think I would blow. I would horribly kind of just.
I know,
because it's one of those things that looks easy but is wildly difficult.
It's very, very difficult. All I can say is I've done 3, and that's it. 3. I'm not even calling them gigs basically, but 3 performances. One was an actual one-off, and I obviously called it ROFL. Almost spells my name.
Good.
And that's it. So that's the first joke out the way. The flyer had like a 5-star rating. It got incredibly funny, and it was reviewed by Inshallah. Basically. So that was my softly, you know, get it out of the way. But it was amongst friends and friends of friends. I think it was probably an audience of about 40 to 50 people. Oh no, actually, what am I talking about? It was like a geek now. It was all coming back now. 67 people. So it was 67 people. That was like a restaurant in the East End. And then I just thought, you know what? So much material based on observations on the Muslim community. That's all it was. Obviously, from literally, because I love accents, so obviously, you know, the differences from observational accents through to mannerisms, through to the first world problems, through to relationships, and picking on the fellow singletons here, basically expectations and reality, through to, you know, corporate snobbery, through to whatever it is, basically cultural variations, our poor timekeeping. There was just, the list goes on. I thought, if I can bundle it up into a meandering kind of like, just don't write anything down, obviously, but just have some topics. I went a bit freestyle, as you do, sort of thing. And I just thought, you know, if I can do 10, 12 minutes and quickly get off and then start eating. But I remembered it went on, I think it was 28-minute set. It's a 28-minute set as a debut, meandering away. But alhamdulillah, you know, obviously 2/3 of the people were friends. So it's like quite supportive. And the other third were randoms, basically. But then that's when you realize that, going back to that, humor and stand-up is not that easy, obviously, because there's one kind of observation, and I said something about, you know, when obviously we've got the cross-cultural thing, and we know there's racism sadly within Muslims, and that's an incredible thing that we need to completely eradicate, obviously. And then I said something like that, oh, there was, you know, as a brother, you know, it was, you know, I think it was Nigerian, and he married, I think it was like an Asian or whatever. And there was silence, obviously. That was it amongst her. And I go, yeah, that was the same reaction he got. And then obviously there's laughter, but then there was somebody, not saying heckle, but they go, oh, I know someone who's blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh, it's not Q&A. Literally. So, and I thought, oh my God. And so obviously started laughing, thinking, oh my gosh, it's turning into a Q&A session. But it wasn't, obviously. And then obviously Muslim timekeeping, where I would just say, look, we are so rubbish generally. But then as if by magic, during Ramadan, everybody knows, synchronized watch and all phones. They know what time to eat. It's also known as pray. But they literally know, and that all comes from nowhere, basically. And then you've obviously got the bling bling kind of lifestyle, especially on weddings, when you see it's just over the top. And I was just thinking, you know what? And it's just to keep up with the, forget the cards, keep up with the Kardashians, but to keep up with the Husseins and Khans.
Is this set? Is it recorded?
No, it's not. It was an exclusive, shall we say, from my friend. And I'll be honest, I really, you know, I'm not going to say I'm going to venture. I'll say never, basically. But I've obviously built up more material based on observations. Maybe I might amongst my friends, but it's not something I'll go into. But
you know what would be fun to do, Rooful, is to sit down and help write some material with you.
You know what? I'd love to.
Because I have stuff that I don't have the guts to say, like, in front of people. But
just say it. Ruthless Rooful, have that mindset. Say it, but obviously with not the intention to hurt anyone, but just to make us laugh at ourselves. I think we are funny, but we don't realize we're funny.
And I think there's like concepts that you think are funny, that you don't know how to turn into a joke. So there was a concept in my mind that there would be someone who gets addicted to cocaine because he just wanted to know what it smelled like.
Okay.
And he's like, I wonder what this smells like. And he ends up running. Right? So it's completely stupid, but I find that very funny.
Okay, we've got to say that asterisk, you know, halal jokes.
Not halal. Not halal.
Not halal. Hasn't passed it.
HMC.
HMC, where it's halal Muslim kind of comedy.
Yes.
So we'll get that still banned.
So, but it would be good to do something like that at some point, because I think that would be very, very, very fun, more than anything else. So just kind of rounding things up a little bit. You know, you were very, very good at school. You enjoyed school. You were, as you say yourself, you were kind of nerdy, and you did accountancy to kind of scratch that itch, and you did it for a long time, very successfully. Then you moved into kind of
the creative
setting up Emerald, which is this a fantastic organization across the city, and it's a beautiful thing. And then, talking of beautiful things, you do photography, and you've created some amazing imagery that is now famous in the Muslim world. Let's be honest.
Alhamdulillah.
And you did the comedy things, which I admire endlessly, and multiple other things. What is it that you've learned? What's the principles that drive you that have led to some of this success? What are the things that you do regularly? What are your practices regularly that you think, oh, okay, this is a reason that I've managed to do some of these things?
I would say it's everything's about, you know, being grateful. So the gratitude, obviously, you know, we can go by the hadith of take care of 5 things before 5, as we know. So, you know, in terms of the time, we know we're going to be accountable for, the wealth, the health, basically. And I think it's a case of, if we're not grateful for them, that phase of your life, basically, then it comes to a point where we don't know when it's going to be our last day. And if you just, we don't want the worldly kind of phrases, I wish I did this, woulda, coulda, shoulda. We know the opportunities were presented to us, and it was our own willpower or discipline or lack of discipline we didn't take account of. So imagine acquiring knowledge and sharing knowledge. We can acquire knowledge, and like for me, it's like the world of accountancy. You can corporate, no problem. But how could I have acquired creative knowledge, basically? Well, creative knowledge because I went out there, basically. So the principles is obviously one thing to say, is that live life in this world, obviously, with a view that you want to, inshallah, you know, think about the hereafter. So it's about the legacy building, the benefiting of others. So if there's a motto, it would be the one that keep using the best of you, those who benefit others. But do things that inshallah will benefit others. Yes, along the way, of course, you're going to have fun, but have that in the back of your mind to say, knowing our accountability and knowing what we've been presented as resources, take advantage while you can, because you never know when tomorrow you're going to be ill. You never know tomorrow when your time is going to be busy. You never know where you have money now that you're feeling the pinch, you know, further down the line, kind of thing. With all these things at the back of your mind, you know, live life to the fullest, as in this life, with a view that you are saying, inshallah, you know, it's going to have an impact in the hereafter. And for me, you know, all the things I've done. So if you know, comically break down, obviously the humor side is just like a release, but it's observational kind of thing. But then that's just the fun elements. But you think for the networking part, the power of connections, I will say, I'm driven with a view that saying I personally have benefited from connections, but other people I know have benefited. So when their circle of contacts has grown, when they've met someone, imagine the singletons met their other half, when someone's got a new job through mentoring informally or straight in lead to an organization, when someone's benefited from charity. So I know when we've done charity events, ultimately you might think, oh, it's just another fundraiser tick. Well, actually pause for a second. That's not a tick. That is somebody's, you know, imagine sponsoring an orphan. That's he or she has benefited a water well. That would be an ongoing charity. So you think, I'm driven by the fact that, you know, the power of connections and networking would inshallah benefit here locally, plus those further afield. But ultimately, individually, if someone's got new livelihoods, got, you know, mashallah, family now, it all traces it back to, as a forum, it would have benefited. So that's that. Then the photography, as I said, yes, it's creative, but to bring a smile, like there's even a smile is charity. But you think for a family who might have gone through all sorts of trauma or misery, sadly, if their daughter or their son, for them, it's second time round or third time round getting married, they've got probably not the best of memories for the first two times, but now you're creating memories where genuinely you can say their smiles. Sadly, obviously, when parents pass away, you know, I know that some of my photos, you know, I've had literally emotional kind of messages from people to say, oh, you caught me with my dad so candidly that they just smile, or those passed away kind of thing. And I was just thinking, it's just a photo. You might think, well, actually, no, it's not. It was a moment. It's not a photo. It's a moment. It's a memory. And you think that's the power of 125th of a second when you just clicked like that, touching of the head or the head to head, you know, embrace or a hug or something you've captured. It's incredible sort of thing. So that has benefited someone emotionally, mentally, because they've got their memory, for example, they've put a smile on their face, for example. So all those kind of things. And there's momentous kind of, like, I'll call it Muslim events that have happened, you know, chatting, you know, whether it's, you know, concerts versus Eid in Trafalgar Square versus all these demonstrations, I would have, like, along the way kind of photographed, and then they became memories for not just us but organizations. But going back to the principles, the case of you do something now with a view that it's obviously impacting the here and now, but also later, the later generations and what have you. But then the other thing is just to inspire, so inspire others around, because obviously there is another way of looking at it cynically. Some people have copied, but I just call it, you know what, if I've inspired someone or an organization, I'm not bothered. I'm not going to lie, human nature, you do get bothered that time. Oh my gosh, they just ripped me off completely. And done a carbon copy of an event or carbon copy or something. But you know what, end of the day, when you just let the ego go, and you know it's between you and the creator, if someone else has copied or someone's just like literally ripped you off kind of thing, let it go. You know, I've become calm because of my age is one thing, but the main thing is just that to think there is a bigger cause, a greater cause, and that is the principles and motivation behind it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So the final bits that I want to talk about, you've now started on your very newest journey. You've joined a entity called Rizq. What do they do? I don't know them very well.
It's literally like a startup in the sense that it's been going for a couple of years. They've had a few management changes, and now they've brought in a few new people, including myself. Alhamdulillah, I'm a chief commercial officer there, and the intention is, as I said, it's an Islamic finance app. So it's a provider of what some people have jokingly named it as Muslim Monzo, but in the sense that essentially, you know, we can't call it a banking because obviously it hasn't got a banking license as yet. But essentially it is a finance app which enables people to, you know, interbank transfers, make daily purchases. I could do a plug and show you the physical cards, a Visa card that basically is contactless and whatever, but it's all within the app. But the crucial thing is Sharia compliance. So when it comes to Sharia compliant, a couple of obvious things. One is obviously, you know, your deposits. So for example, I'm honest, I'm with NatWest and I'm also with Lloyds. We know deep down, we might think, oh, we're receiving 0%. So I feel happy in that sense. But actually, well, no, because your money will then be used in sectors that, you know, and that's not in our control. That's right. Whereas this is actually ring fence, so you know your money is not going to be used in any sectors that's permissible. But also on a light-hearted note, and I found this quite comical, that even if you wanted to go back to Las Vegas and use it in a casino, it will be barred. There are basically sectors of transactions. If the code is you can't use it in an off license, you can't use it in a pub, you can't use it.
That's good.
Gaming. So that's the kind of novelty. And there'll also be, inshallah, within the app, there'll be what they call like a marketplace. So almost like Muslim lifestyle, but it's not necessarily Muslim. It's going to be ethical lifestyle. So food, travel, fashion, where supporting the almost like the ecosystem that in the UK, businesses which will have discounts and special offers, and it's all within the app itself, basically. So that's quite exciting times.
And what's your job within this entity?
It's because it's a commercial role. So commercial role, obviously, almost like multifaceted. So almost like finding opportunities, creating opportunities, looking at what's out there in terms of Muslim lifestyle brands that we can do, forge partnerships with, and then also in terms of getting the product out there to the marketplace. Obviously, we know that there are so many, you know, Muslims in UK, you know, up to 3 to 4 million, but then demographically, who would be receptive to? Nobody really changes their bank that often. Let's be honest with you, you just don't. But how can we almost like convince them to say, if you're faced with a situation that, excuse me, that you've been banking with a mainstream, but have a second account, why not? Basically, with full knowledge that, you know what, one thing, obviously, we haven't got time to have a debate on Islamic finance, but when it comes to riba and when it comes to interest and everything, the financial instruments, but we're just thinking it's one of those things that as a lifestyle, we just almost assume that, oh, because we're in the UK, we're in the Western, whatever, there isn't anything. And human nature, you say, you know what, tick mortgage, go with a conventional mortgage, and becomes dangerous then, because after house, then you think it's some people, I can't comment on anyone, you know, it's not for me to judge, but some people then take out loans for weddings, they'll take out loans for cars, interest bearing credit card debts, and it's a spiral of doom and gloom. And then we know that ultimately we're accountable. That is our lifestyle choice that we would have made, but now faced with the choice to say, you know what, we can't use the excuse, oh, but there wasn't anything else.
There is now. There is now.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. That's you know, inshallah, you have the utmost of success with this
I appreciate that
venture. And obviously that, you know, you'll continue with Emerald and you'll continue doing photography. Are there any big plans that you can tell us about for those two things, or
I would say, if you can, I don't know, it's not like a plug, but do follow Emerald Network on social media, because on the grounds, that's the channel that we will be announcing. And as we speak, obviously, when someone watches this many months down the line, it won't be relevant, but June the 18th, so this year in 2022, June the 18th, there's a film called The Balance. That's by Red Face Films, and that is a stunning film based on the Muslim Islamic kind of entertainment, inverted commas, industry. So it's talking heads in terms of views and opinions and candid interviews with influencers. There's Omar Suleiman, there's obviously Zain Beaker, there's Maria Drisi, there's all personalities we might recognize. It's just a brilliant film, and that will be the world premiere, and Emerald are one of the partners basically to deliver that event. So watch this space, and that's going to be at a little place which people might know called BAFTA. So watch this space. So that's an exclusive that I'm just revealing now. So we're excited for that, basically.
So send me the links for these things, and I'll make sure that they're on the bottom of this.
Sure.
So we've come to that point, which is my favorite point in this podcast. But the two questions that I normally ask, I think they're not really going to work with you, because from our conversation earlier, you're not a big reader.
No, I'll be honest, actually. No, I'm going to interrupt there, and I'll just say I do read, but they're all like a total geek, textbook based. So like books on photography, books on branding, but like photography books like Steve Curry, you know, in terms of famous, they'll portrait with the Afghan girl, and so there'll be fantastic coffee table books I read, but they're not fiction or anything like that.
They're not going to be great recommendations for who have no interest in photography. and you're not a big film fan, which is you know, that's interesting. So I thought the one thing that I do know about you, the one thing that I find fascinating and slightly worrying is your
football obsession.
Your fascination with one Manchester United.
Yep, absolutely.
Which I think are you season ticket holder?
I am. So that's the thing I've been going for, and that's giving my age away, but I've been going for probably
a long time.
30 years, nearly 30 years. So where people, you know, come up giving it all this, you know, on social media, they've never been to Old Trafford, and obviously it's not a boast. I'm grateful, eternally grateful that, you know, I'm a season ticket holder with the brothers, basically. But I would say my take on that is basically, you know, for all the, you know, life's troubles and distresses, family and all sorts of work related, look after yourself. And I'll say look after yourself.
The theatre of nightmares, right?
Theatre of nightmares, as it's been, but once upon a time, theatre of dreams, obviously in the 90s and the early noughties. But I would say, you know, honestly, whatever your passion is, whether it's travel, whether it's whatever, or eating out, and just, you know, going out in the big outdoors, climbing or running, fitness and whatever. To me, I just think you've got to balance things, because otherwise, before you know it, you're fast forwards, end of your 30s, before you know it, into your 40s.
I have a question around football. Who's your favourite players that play for Man United? Look, can I guess?
Ooh.
Can I guess?
Go on then.
Guess three. Giggs.
Oh, correct. One of
Cantona.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you got it. Yeah.
Third one, Ronaldo.
No, well, obviously legend that he is, basically. But I would say for impact, Cantona, without question. So given that he wasn't there for long, given that he wasn't there for long, and we were in a typical misery kind of state, basically, it's like collars up, I'm the man kind of thing, chest out.
It was very good.
It was just the impact. You thinking, wow, look at him, kind of thing. So it was in awe when you used to see him, and obviously he can be a bit physical, shall we say, in a nice kind of bit like, I forget the famous
Crystal Palace fans who
exactly
who commented on his racial background.
Yep. Awkward. Yeah, basically.
Sometimes you gotta.
I know.
Someone in the chest. That's
good old Zidane. But no, I would say Cantona for impact. I would say Giggs for entertaining, because obviously, the famous goal in the semi-final of 1999 in the FA Cup. It was just like,
who was that against?
That was against a little team that you might know, Arsenal. What a shame, it says the Spurs fan here. But a nice ball by Vieira. Not that he meant it, basically, and he picked it up, and the rest is history. So that obviously Giggs for an entertainment. We won't talk about his private life, basically. Basically, but for entertaining factor, he was just like, honestly, just like, obviously for those who weren't old enough, and that's including me, for George Best, basically. So in the modern era, to have someone like Giggs in his heyday, obviously prime, just fantastic. Giving the ball the pace and the way it would take on players.
Giggs is the Portland Gareth Bale, isn't he? Yeah,
that's it. That's so funny. And then the other person I would say is Schmeichel. Because you think we've had goalkeepers come and go, basically.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there.
He was just like, unorthodox in some of the saves he'll do, but absolutely vocal, and obviously
giant leader of men.
The leadership, which we know that for football, not many people look at goalkeepers. Obviously, they just think great shot stopper or safe pair of hands, but he was more than that.
He was legendary.
Quick distribution, that literally the mouth that he had on him, obviously, and that is just almost that you can get those traits to say the concept of leadership. You can make parallels in life and work and whatever, but you're thinking it's amazing to be vocal and then the impact it creates.
Right. And I suppose a recommendation from you, because I like to have some sort of recommendation from everybody. 2 cameras, one for a beginner, so someone like me who doesn't know the first thing, who has an iPhone and goes click, and that's being a photographer. What SLR would you get?
Well, in fact, it's going to be controversial, because I'm going to say, you just said you've got an iPhone. Don't underestimate the power of the smartphones nowadays, because I can tell you now, I've only got 11 Pro. Obviously, latest one's 13 Pro at the time of this recorded. Basically, when it comes to iPhones, or whether it comes to Samsungs, S22s or whatever the latest one, I'm not an Android guy, basically. But I can tell you now, honestly, stunning, absolutely stunning optics that are the only thing missing. I can tell you now, probably just a couple of things in smartphones basically will be the shutter speed. So the ability to have ludicrously fast shutter speeds. Yes, there might be apps for that. I've not looked into it, but like that wedding ones where you freeze in action. That's going to be the distinguishing between a phone and a camera, basically. So take away fast shutter speed, which really, how often you're going to really want that sort of thing. I would say that's one of the main things. But otherwise, you're thinking the optics, low lights in terms of night photography, it's stunning. So don't discount, I would say, your smartphone. However,
if you're a starter, learn how to use an iPhone or whatever properly.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I would say, we're in danger of going into photography masterclass. But I would say, if you split down the middle and you think photography essentially will be technical plus creative. So technically get up to speed with the notion of exposure. So what is basically too bright, too dark, too blurry, and not sharp enough. And that's the likes of shutter speed, ISO, aperture, to get that blurry background. That's called depth of field. So why is there something in recent versions of phones called portrait mode? Well, portrait mode, in a nutshell,
it's very cool.
It's playing with depth of field. So it's giving you a shallow depth of field to say it's blurring out the background to give it that professional kind of look, because it's saying portrait is of the person, not of the background. So let's knock out the background with a F number to be geeky. That's the depth of field, which is basically aperture, and that's what it is. So I would say master your phone before you're thinking, because you can have all the gear, no idea, as the phrase I've always loved to say, basically. So that's the first thing. But if you are venturing into obviously getting an inverted commas professional camera, I would say obviously, to me, people keep on going, oh, is it Nikon, Canon, Nikon, Canon? That's in the world of cars. When people say, oh, BMW or Mercedes,
yeah.
don't discount the Audi. So equivalent to that, I would say don't discount the Sony. So don't discount the Sony. There is a third player out there. And the Alpha series, the A7 series, the Sonys, they've been phenomenal. They've been a game changer in the last, 5 to 8 years, where their ability for video has been fantastic.
So I have an aim for my channel here, and that is at some point I will make enough money from this channel without any of my other income to buy one of those cameras. So
why not? Why not?
And then I'll use that, and this whole thing will look much more.
Why not? Why not? But then I would say, but obviously people forget, and this is my last tip: is one thing is having the camera, but it's the optics, it's the lens. Because forget how many megapixels and whatever, it's the lens. Because it's equivalent to, to make an analogy in the world of cars, it's equivalent to having a fancy car, but then you having an unbranded budget tires. Which doesn't make sense, because that means the handling is not going to be great, obviously. So equivalent to that is please make sure that you don't put all your life savings into getting the camera, but not enough for the lens, because it's the lens that is the magic. And the lens, the tip I would say, is depending on what type of photography you're into. So if you are going to be landscapes, you can get a wide angle lens. If you're really into street photography, a 50mm walkabout lens. If you're into portrait, something like 85mm. But all these kind of terminology about so-and-so millimeters is to do with the magnification. Do you want something close up, head and shoulders, or do you want something wide, like streetscapes and landscapes kind of thing? So do invest in upgrading any lens that might come with your camera, because that's the one that's going to make or break the look and feel.
Brilliant. On that note, Rooful, this has been such a pleasure. I've always enjoyed talking to you, and this has been more pleasure than normally, because we've spoken for quite a long time. Thank you so much, and like I said, send me all your links. I want to share all that stuff on here. And Jazakallah khair for joining me, and inshallah we'll see each other soon, hopefully.
Inshallah. No, Jazakallah for the opportunity. It's been really lovely to catch up, but obviously online, but look forward to catching up in person.
Perfect.
Cool.
So that was Rooful. As you can hear, as you can see, he is just an amazing character and lots of fun, and I doubt there's anybody who doesn't know him who's watching this podcast. So please comment if you have any questions of him. Let me know, and like, subscribe as per usual. Thank you. Bye.